back with the World Championship Series here in Austin, Texas, as we continue to find our way to our second circuit champion for the year 2018. The only thing more exciting than getting yelled at for bedazzling an engagement ring. I'm Nathanius. Welcome back. I am joined by two wonderful, wonderful StarCraft gentlemen. To my left, we have Fear Dragon. You were very hyped. I know you're really excited. You're very glad to be getting back into the action.
I am really happy to finally be getting back into the action. As I know, a lot of the players are also super excited. I was watching the series of Snoot versus Silky earlier on, which was 1-0 in favor of Snoot. And then during the middle of the second game, Silky actually got a really awesome lead, which I think was kind of a bit surprising for most people. And that's when the delays started happening and everything, but they're starting to get back into it. So I'm looking forward to catching the rest of this game.
Cool. I'm also joined by Pig. Pig, you've been writing in books. You have some weird leather-bound ancient tome of dirty Zerg builds. Is that something you're studying backstage?
What can I say? I'm promoting variety of strategies and that sort of thing, and that's what we've been seeing a bit of in this tournament, and that's why I'm very excited, because we've got some of the NA builds coming through this tournament so far. A few of the styles coming out so far. I think the Europeans have been standing pretty strong, but I mean, I guess the next up one, we have like an honorary NA player and Probe coming up in a little bit against Dario, so that's going to be cool.
Plays on the Americas region, right? Might as well be American.
I think, you like playing against Australians in the ladder, don't you, Nate?
And you know what I love even more than that? StarCraft. So without further ado, I do believe on the stage we've got ready to bring out our first two players. It's going to be TLO going up against Probe. Smix, you ready to get back into the action?
I am ready, and are you guys ready in the audience? You guys are fantastic. Let's just jump right into it and introduce our next two players. It is TLO and Probe.
Nothing like some good old PvZ to get us moving forward here again. TLO, the Wunderwunsch, has been playing StarCraft since StarCraft 2 was basically a thing. He was killing it in the beta, and he's been killing it ever since. Very well-known established player. Probe, a man perhaps most known for looking a lot like Snoot, also a very formidable opponent coming out of Australia.
He's a really good player, you know. He's really come up, and funnily enough, there's a bit of history between these two. One of his good performances, I think it was like Leipzig last year. I can't remember the exact WCS stop it was. He did take down TLO in the group stage there, and that was kind of one of his hey, we've got an Australian who's not just losing in the group stage like Pig used to, you know. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. Maybe we can have a real rep. This will be awesome. So Probe's kind of stepped up there and had a really good run last year. He almost took out Neeb at Valencia, and kind of really showed his stuff, but he has been struggling a little bit more recently in all matchups, so I think this is a really tough matchup for him.
Yeah, even actually earlier in Group Stage 1, we had Probe going up against Bio Ice, who's a pretty solid NA player, but I don't think anyone would really consider him to be one of the strongest players at this event by any means or any stretch of the imagination. So Probe maybe going to be struggling a little bit more with that PvZ, as demonstrated from earlier.
All right. Yeah, and we just saw TLO's information came up. TLO's special storyline last year was that he somehow ran into Neeb and got knocked out by him at most of the tournaments last year. Of course, Neeb went on to win 3 of the WCS championships, and in a weird world could have gotten a 4th, but deep runs nonetheless.
I mean, it was like a horror movie. You're like, don't go in there, don't go into the round of 32, TLO, because you know Neeb's waiting in the cupboard every single time.
Neeb's always waiting. So honestly, I guess that's totally possible. But don't worry, guys, we're moving fast. We got the game ready for you. It's TLO versus Probe.
I like games that move fast, so it's good to be back on the desk again, this time with Rotterdam, getting ready for our next series.
It feels good to be here. Finally, my first cast of the day between these two awesome players, and two players that obviously need a big result. It's been a while for both of them. Both of them are good. Both of them have been successful from time to time. But over the last 12 months, it hasn't really been their time to shine. I'm super curious to see who will advance to the round of 32, because that is what is on the line for this one, as we're looking at the main base of our German Zerg player, spawning on the left bottom side of Lost and Found. Give it up for Liquid TLO.
Of course, a fan favorite, Dr. Dario. Good to see him back again. Will Need wait for him in the future, or will he have a different path through the bracket? Right now, he's got to go up against this guy from the land down under. Here he is. Make some noise for Legacy's Probe.
Now, once again, just to clear things up, this is still the second group stage, but this is the deciders match of Group B. This group was won by Harstem. Our Dutch Protoss didn't drop a single map. He went 2-0, 4-0, but this was a very tough group because it also had Champ from Mexico, and we all know that Champ has had quite a bit of success within the WCS circuit, but Champ actually lost twice. He lost to Probe as well in the lower bracket match, and in the upper bracket match, he lost to TLO. So now it all comes down to this. Who will advance to the round of 32? Who will at least walk away with $1,250? And above all, keep their hopes and dreams alive for this entire WCS Austin. A big series, Rapid.
Definitely a big series. You know, we've had a lot of time in between our games. That's given both of these players a lot of time to sort of think, and definitely want to make sure to keep an eye on kind of what shape that they're in, especially in long LAN days like this. It can really fatigue players out. Maybe that makes them more susceptible to some crazy builds. Just when I was looking at the head-to-head between these two players, it seems like there's a slight edge for TLO, but obviously they don't get to play against each other all that often. So especially because these are new maps, there is a lot of, it's a very fresh set between the two of them.
That was kind of cute, actually. He's pulling the probe out of position with one drone, and then TLO is still able to take the base that he truly wanted to.
Would you say that's an innovative strategy?
I would say that was a pretty creative move. I mean, you know, it's not everyone could come up with that. This is actually quite nice for TLO. He's going to run 2 Zerglings into the main base. I don't think he's going to get a probe here from Probe, no pun intended at all. But this is kind of annoying because you're going to be forced to pull your probes off your mineral lines. At the same time, this, ooh, I would have liked to see that, that shade finish up, actually.
I mean, there's nothing back there. It's like, I think, who is it? Yoda said, always 2 there are. The Zerglings, they come in pairs. And they're all the way out there on the map, so there's really not a whole lot. Yeah, there's only 2 Zerglings and a Queen back home to defend, so, I mean, that would have been a couple of cheeky drone kills right there.
Yep, at least 1 or 2, I would say, and then at the same time, it's also very likely that TLO would have ended up losing those Zerglings because you cannot pay attention to 2 Zerglings if your drones are being attacked on your side of the map.
Right.
Now, Probe did go for the very regular 1-gate fast expand Stargate follow-up. It was Phoenix first. This Phoenix is going to try to hunt down some Overlords, but I look at this mini-map, and this looks like a very sad map for a Phoenix to hunt down Overlords. There's 1 Overlord in the right bottom side. Dario is going to try to hide it as well as he can. And I'm curious to see where Probe takes this afterwards. The fact that he took out Cham, though, in the lower bracket match, that gives me a lot of hope for expectations for him in this best of 3. Because Cham is good, man. Cham is nothing to scoff at. So obviously this is not going to be a walk in the park for TLO.
I mean, Probe took Cham out as well. So
yeah, that's what
if I looked at that bracket ahead of time, I definitely would have put Cham either 3rd or 2nd. He's had very strong results recently, but unfortunate placement for them. So we get a chance to look at the guys that took him out here against each other. And with that early Phoenix, that's going to give lots of scouting information to Probe. But I always love to see what players do with the information they get. It doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of harassment in Probe's futures. That Oracle gets ushered away, but he does have that early Air Force with a 2nd Oracle out on the way.
Yeah, now recently we have seen the resurgence, so to speak, of the double Stargate play with Zest using it multiple times and then Classic as well. And it's quite funny because Probe tweeted almost immediately after Zest did it. He's like, all right, I'm live, come watch me play some ladder games. I'm gonna go for this double Stargate play as well. So I was curious to see if he's gonna bust it out in this series. So far, I have the feeling he's not, because he's following this up with a quick resonating glaives. But maybe if he sees those roaches, he still decides to throw down an additional Stargate.
Right now, yeah, it is the resonating glaives, and I guess he's pushed all scouting information off his side of the map with that Phoenix early, so it would be a great opportunity to sneak some cheeky builds in there, but still there's been relatively little damage done by this Stargate opener.
Yep, and the Queen count is high. The Roaches and Zerglings are coming out in full force already. I'm actually a little bit thrown off by this resonating glaives timing, because if you look at it, we're 5 minutes and 40 seconds into this game. Only now Resonating Glaives is halfway done. I've seen multiple Stargate into Twilight openings where the Protoss player still shades out at roughly 4:55 or at the 5-minute mark sharp. So this shade is a minute late, but that does mean that his numbers are a lot higher than what you normally see. But TLO actually made a lot of Roaches and Lynx, So I have the feeling that if TLO positions his units well here, he shouldn't take too much damage, and that would be bad news for Probe.
Well, the positioning of his units is half the roaches are actually way up north by the 4th base, and that means that they won't be here for the Adepts, but there's still plenty more units there left there to defend. It's tons of roaches on the production tab, ready to explode out onto the map.
There's a drop lord on the way as well, and I have the feeling that TLO may put a couple of well, actually, that's all the way in the right bottom side. That's really
what
weird.
is supposed to be there?
I have no idea what the purpose of that one is, because I don't think we have a bailing nest.
Oh, so those roaches, I think, were heading down there to get put in the Overlord.
But for what?
Yeah, that seems like a really strange place to drop there as well. So the stasis trap gets triggered immediately right there by the Zerglings. They get pushed right back out and taken out. So, yeah, I'm curious about that play.
I really had the feeling there was supposed to be a different Overlord that was morphing into a drop lord, because he has a lot of queens at home, and then maybe try to pressure with roaches, lynx, and indeed those queens. Because I have the feeling he wanted to use the queens against the Oracle, but yeah, his drop lord was so freaking far out of position. Every second that goes by, Probe warped in 2 robotics facilities. That immortal count is going to go up very quickly. TLO's on the clock here.
That's right. This is the big move. This is that one timing. As the Koreans say, it's time. It's time to go for it, but it's right in time for those double robos to kick in. And so right now we've got 2, but it's going to be 4 immortals, and there's just no way to get through these rocks.
I have a tough time believing that TLO can make this work. Yes, his army looks massive and he is up for the army supply, but we know how strong these Protoss units are defensively. Don't ignore those sentries, by the way. Multiple sentries in the mix, couple of good force fields thrown down.
I mean, breaking through the force fields with those corrosive biles, this is a lot of Zerg. There are still those immortals back in the back, but they are going down one by one. Look at these biles. They're not only hitting the back line, but there's a couple of Zerglings running around there as well.
Yeah, they were actually trapping these immortals coming in from the north side. That was a really good play by TLO. So all of these immortals have gone down. The additional immortals are not coming out. Were the robots contaminated or something? Because they really did not show up. And it seems like TLO will get the job done here in the end. Looked like a risky attack, but he gets the first win on the board.
GG, and you're right there, Rotterdam. That was a very close timing. You wait for one more cycle of Immortals to get out, and it looks completely different. But the upgrades hit, the macro is on point, and Dario takes game number 1 against Probe.
I would have loved to see a few more static defenses there by Probe, because he had the Oracles, he saw the amount of roaches and lynx that being produced, and at that point you kind of know as a Protoss that all you have to do is survive. So get 1 or 2 or 3 more shield batteries at that base, and as long as you get that Immortal count going up, 2 Immortals is nice, 3 is better, which he had at one point, but he had 2 more on the way. It felt like forever since they came out, so maybe those robots were contaminated. I wouldn't be surprised, because TLO is very creative. But if you get 4 or 5 Immortals, it really doesn't matter if you're down 30 or 40 army supply, because Immortals just destroy roaches.
They really live up to their name. Still a little bit curious about what that drop Overlord was for. Maybe it was for like a fake to draw some of Probe's units out of position and come try to deal with a fake drop, but even that was a little bit suspicious because everything was being scouted by the Air Force.
I have no explanation for that drop lord other than the fact that Dario thought that Overlord was somewhere else.
That's where you get a little bit too creative.
Yeah, and I really think it was just meant, because he had Overlord speed as well, so I think he was just meant to put 4 queens in it. Because we've seen a lot of Roach Link pushes, but then if there's 2 Oracles still alive out on the map and both have over 100 energy, they start just destroying the Links. They start working on the Ravages as well, and eventually even the Roaches. So I think the Queens were supposed to take care of the AI units, or maybe if there would have been a Desperation Void Ray, but I think it just morphed the wrong Overlord. That's the only explanation I have.
Even still, it works out perfectly for TLO. He's got a lot of fans in the crowd. I think we got a chance to see them there. And I know everybody's excited to get back into this series. Even our cameraman's pretty darn excited to see a little bit more of TLO. And there we see him on our screen. A magnificent example of a Zerg player. And it's good to see him back here. Will he meet Snoot in the next round? You know, history says yes, but or not Snoot, but Neeb. He's out there waiting for potentially one of these 2 players. But to focus on the players on our screen right now, Probe, you know, he's got to come back. What is it that was really off for Probe's timings? You mentioned his Glaive Adepts were a little bit late.
Yeah, I really felt it was late, and then he also never committed, which I can sort of understand if he truly sees the amount of units that are out on the map. But then I don't really understand why he made that many adepts with Resonating Glaives in the first place. Because, yes, Resonating Glaives adepts are fantastic, but mostly to catch a Zerg off guard, mostly to kill workers, maybe trade well against the Lynx, but against that many Roaches, it just doesn't do that much for you.
Right.
So I'm a tiny bit confused. I also felt that if you open up with a Phoenix and then 2 Oracles, you want to find some market damage somewhere. Like, I'm not saying that you should hope to kill 15 drones, because we know that's very difficult against Zergs as good as TLO. But at one point, there was only a single Queen and a Spore Troll in the main. That's where those units are supposed to sync up. You lift the Queen, Oracles fly in, and you get 5-6 drones, and those numbers do really add up. And we just didn't see any of that. So Probe made a lot of units that could have potentially did harassment damage, but none of them actually got anything done.
Let's get ready for game number 2, Kev. Here we go. The map is going to be Dreamcatcher. Oh, no, it's going to be Acid. Okay, game number 2. I was reading the wrong card. This is going to be Acid Plant. Introducing our player in the bottom right-hand corner in the blue. Playing for Team Liquid, it's TLO.
Competitor since the SE2 beta. I think once upon a time in that SE2 beta, he had a show match in Cologne during a Warcraft 3 event versus the legend himself, Mad Frog. I'll never forget those games. They were magnificent. Over here on the left top side of Acid Plant, we're looking at the main base of our Australian Protoss. It is our one and only Probe.
I'm glad you mentioned that TLO show match. He also had another TLO show match advertising Team Liquid called TL Ownage, where he played his placement matches against brand new players. Oh, those poor newbies. It was a fantastic thing to watch. So he's been around for a long time. He's always been very creative. He's played just about every race out there, but he's finally settled on Zerg. And
yeah.
He's been doing some pretty good things with it. Of course, he does always seem to run up against Neebir, so you got to know that he's practiced a lot of ZVP. But against Probe here, I think it's a little bit of a different style. But I'm still not exactly sure what the style of Probe is designed for, because it didn't seem to do much in game 1.
Yeah, I think we're going to see him switch things up a little bit here in game number 2. And maybe he does go for that double Stargate play that we saw Zez bring out multiple times in the GSL as well, and even Classic. Because TLO just made a whole bunch of Roaches. And we all know that Stargate units in general do pretty good against Roaches.
Right.
So I wouldn't be too surprised to see that. But I like that you pointed out that TLO played all the races, because obviously he was random for a long time.
Right.
But at first he settled with Terran, but it was really funny because there were times where he was competing in some of the German tournaments that were kind of dominated by the Protosses back then, like Hazuobs and Zocchi. And the TLO, out of nowhere, I remember he walked up to me and see, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to play PvP versus Hazuobs. And I'm like, that seems like a terrible idea, Dario.
Yeah, you don't just pick a guy that's really strong at the race and play it against him.
And he's like, no, I think I can do this. I was like, Dario, this is like the semi-finals of the German championship. I wouldn't play PvP against Hazuobs. He's like, no, this is going to go great. He lost 2-0.
Okay, well.
He did try, you know.
Well, it does seem like in the end he has settled on a great race. We've had a history of players who have chosen different races and gone on to have a lot of success with that. I think Neeb is a great story for that as well as many others. But I'm glad that we do see this creative style. I mean, it's a little bit of a meme at this point, but you highlight every little tiny thing about Dario's builds that just make him a little bit different.
It is a meme, but he also lives up to the meme.
Oh, yeah.
Almost every single week there is a clip of Dario on Reddit, and the first thing I do when I wake up is like, okay, I want to see what it was, and it does always make you chuckle, and it gives you a smile to your face. You're like, all right, only you could have done this, Dario. So it is a little bit of a meme, but he also deserves the meme because he does come up with very cute and little fancy plays. Often not game-winning plays, but nice things to get a minor advantage.
No minor advantages so far. This opener is pretty similar to what we saw in the last game. We saw the Zerglings get in, get cleared up, and so now finally, once this Overlord goes down, should be where we see the direction Probe wants to go.
Yeah, could potentially hide something. So far, everything is very identical to what we saw on Lost and Found. There's an Oracle follow-up. Curious to see if it's going to go double Oracle behind this as well. Maybe he goes straight into the Robo this game. That's possible as well, because it's safe to say that those Resonating Glaives adepts, they really didn't get done what he was hoping for. And I feel that Lost and Found is a slightly better map for Resonating Glaives than Acid Plant is. This map is just pretty damn big. It's going to take multiple shades. I would have preferred it on Lost and Found, and if it didn't work out on that map, I would prefer not to see it at all here.
All right, well, what is the direction that Probe wants to go? He is going to go that double Oracle. So, yeah, right up until now, everything looks really similar to Game 1. And, you know, if history repeats itself, then Probe could be in a little bit of trouble. Nothing there to take out the stasis trap.
Oh my
God.
Wow.
Terrible, terrible damage right there. Nothing mining except a couple of, I guess, try-hard drones at the edge there.
That's actually really rough because they're blocking some of the other patches as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, I mean, they can sort of go through it, but that's so many drones not mining. And in this phase in the game, that obviously has a massive impact. Now, what is going to be the upgrade? I hope to see charge because I really have the feeling it's going to be resonating glaives again. I mean, that graph just shows you how big that stasis ward truly was.
Yeah, that's huge. No pull really does affect that economy. So right now, actually, the Oracle is going to get in and start taking out Queens. A lift will ensure that that does go down, and a few of those Nomad drones have to get sent right back home as a lot of damage does start to come through. But, you know, as history does repeat itself, we see a huge swell of roaches with speed on the way.
Yeah. So once again, it is going to be that resonating glaives timing that's just simply a little bit later than what you see it some other moments where, for instance, Showtime likes to also go every now and then, like Stargate into resonating glaives. Then he does make a lot less Stargate units. Definitely doesn't go Phoenix into double Oracle, but they shade out a lot faster. If you would have shaded to the other side of the map at like 450, there is a good chance that he only fights a couple of roaches. Now that roach number is already quite high. Probe is going to take a look at these rocks and he's going to be like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't, unless you can just totally avoid these roaches. But I have the feeling that's going to be very tough against TLO.
I mean, on Acid Planet, you can always try to catch them on the high ground as they come through the trough, but there's just not enough there. And I don't know about completing that shade yet. He's just going to come in and see that there's a whole lot of defense there for TLO, and I don't know how much Probe can do here with these Glaive Adepts.
The Oracle's taking a lot of damage. The other Oracle tries to get a stasis ward down as well. Somehow that Oracle survived on the right side, by the way. That must have been incredibly low on HP. Yeah, 4 HP.
Wow.
So one more hit. Now these roaches are going to try to get adventurous, but running up this ramp against the sentries is going to be tough, but he is morphing 4 Ravagers. So this game looks very similar to what we saw before, but Probe is getting very adventurous here. I'm not sure if this was the right move.
Oh no, Biles coming down actually do take out quite a bit. There just wasn't enough there, Kev. The entire army gets taken out one by one, pushed back to the reinforcement point, and even that Immortal, actually no, I guess it got missed there, just now having its shields proc. There are some static defenses, but just not enough back at home. The second Immortal, though, coming forward could be what turns this back in Probe's favor.
I really think that TLO made a mistake there. Trying to get that Immortal near the shield battery, it just seemed very tough. He could have easily taken out those 3 sentries with the Ravagers and the Roaches there. He went for the Immortal, but that shield battery did some serious work. But it doesn't mean that Probe is out of the woods just yet. He's still down in supply, but the Roach numbers are not as big as they were on Lost and Found.
Well, TLO has Roach speed. He's also created a creep highway, so these reinforcements are going to be coming in hot and heavy. Here it goes. The army for Probe dropping down one by one. He's going to be forced back there. A huge stasis ward catches so much of TLO's army.
Sick.
He is forced to head for the hills. A beautiful trap laid by Probe.
That could very well be a game-winning stasis ward right there. Excellently done there by Probe, running back towards it. TLO not thinking about it, looking at that army, feeling that he could maybe get on top of those Immortals. I would have liked to see that army be a little... I feel like he could have killed a few more units there.
He could have trapped a lot there,
yeah.
Especially if he had a couple of force fields. But actually, he only has 2 sentries, and they're very low on energy, so...
I still feel like he could have positioned his army a little bit more towards the south-east, so to speak. No, southwest, excuse me. And then I think he would have been able to get a few more hits off with all those Immortals. Now, TLO is giving up on the Roach pressure, and he throws down a Bailing Nest and a Hydra Den. Obviously, Hydra Bane can be powerful in this matchup, but it's one of those compositions where you need to be on 74, 78 drones, and TLO simply didn't have that kind of an economy throughout this game.
Oh, wow, yeah, I look down there and I see less than 60 workers. We're already, closing in on that 9-minute mark. Wow, these stasis wards keep doing a lot more than I see them in other games, but I guess every once in a while, if you're not being really vigilant on your mineral line, they do wind up coming in there. Oh, wow, we're gonna get a second one. Oh. Last second takedown on that Oracle. I guess that was like one of the low health ones from earlier.
This is problematic though for our German Zerg. Like he's morphing 5 Dropper Lords, so I think he's gonna try to go for some fancy plays into the main base, but he needs to do something. If he just sits at home, Probe can literally run to the other side of the map with his Immortals, with a Warp Prism soon, and he could have just ended the game. So TLO is going to try to buy some time with these drops until he gets a Hydra count up. And I actually kind of like this move, because TLO is on the ropes, and he needs a comeback play.
A two-pronged attack is an unscouted 3 Overlord drop, heads right into the main. What's inside there? It's all roaches, but some nice force fields at the front, trying to shave off some of TLO's army, but it doesn't actually catch that much, and it's going to force a recall into the main.
Yeah, that's a big recall as well. Oh, a couple of Immortals, that's good enough. I would have loved to see TLO go for the Templar Archives there, because I really think that would have bought a lot of time for him as well. But during all of this, TLO is starting to squeeze out those Hydras. He got 15 probes as well. That's actually a pretty big deal
Wow.
against an only 3-base Protoss player. So this drop was absolutely worth it. As long as TLO... Wow, look at that. 15 drones during all of this.
He's going to go back and get even more with the Overlords that survived there. Yeah, granted, there's a little bit left there, so he's going to head back. Will he actually be able to use those? Maybe he's just saving them for later.
These are sweet plays, though, by TLO, because things looked very rough. He was even in the economy, and his army was simply a lot worse. Now, suddenly, he's got a whole bunch of Hydras out that sniped that Oracle as well. TLO managed to go up to 4 bases during all of this. 76 workers, like I mentioned before. That's kind of what you want to have.
What an explosion.
Yeah, when you have, like, Hydra Bane, and Probe knows it, man. He cannot waste too much more time. He's a 3-base Protoss. He knows Hydras are out. If you want to win this game, you got to go for it. Does he have a Prism, though?
No, I don't think he actually does.
What?
Yeah, no Prism out there. So
That's so weird.
He's way out there. I can see if he was going to go clear creep, but the Observer's actually behind. And now this actually gives an avenue for TLO to come and actually attack behind Probe's army.
TLO just picks up an Archon there for free. Try to get maybe that Immortus Bomb. Probe is giving up on a game-ending attack, as now he fires up Storm as well. Lots of energy, by the way, on the Nexus. Come on, Probe. Chrono was something. It's always good. I think at this point, if you're Probe, you're going to sit back. You're going to try to get Archon, Immortal Storm, and go up to 4 bases, which is what he's doing. I don't think this is what he wanted to do in the first place, but I really like that call right now, because it's simply he missed his window.
Well, TLO is actually taking a base very close to, I guess, what could have been the upper right-hand corner for it, but I guess the way that you expand is just going to be further forward. And Acid Plant, once you start taking these forward bases, you get so close to each other, so it's going to start to get, the action's going to heat up here. What is that guy doing out there? He is a little bit lost and found. That was our previous map. But going back to here, the harassment gets cleaned up. TLO only loses 2 probes.
There's no
or 2
Archons
drones.
here, though.
Yeah, the Archons got picked off earlier.
Yeah, I mean, Storm is done, I believe, right? Is Storm done? Yeah, so Storm, no, it's still actually 12 seconds away. Maybe TLO could go for a couple of Baneling bombs on top of a mineral line, try to get a few more workers, because if the Protoss is only at 57 workers, if you can take down 10, 12 probes, that's massive. Getting a cancel on this 4th base is also massive.
Oh my goodness, no 4th anytime. And look, he's gonna drop Banelings on everything. The Immortals get their shields procced and nothing else comes through here. Banelings are raining down on high on everything that Probe has on the ground. Not enough force fields to stop TLO from steamrolling over everything on the ground.
Not a single Storm went down there. A few more Zealots being warped in as Probe is gonna try to save the day. Does he have any shield batteries there? No, he does not. So most of the Immortals have disappeared, and even if Probe stabilizes here, he's in a world of trouble, but he will not. GG, TLO takes the series and will advance to the round of 32.
Yeah, TL2-0. Knocking him out. We've seen a lot of 2-0s today, Kev, and Dario does it again.
Man, those Baneling bombs in the end on top of the High Templars, I loved it. I think TLO was kind of looking for what can I potentially go for. Maybe it's still like a few adepts that were left over. Maybe I can get on top of the sentries. And suddenly he looks at an army that's pure Immortal and he's like, 3, 4 High Templars completely exposed. Well, Immortals are scary, but if there's not a single Storm there, then I can actually take that fight. So well done by TLO.
Well, let's go ahead and dive deep into the mind of Dr. Dario on stage with Smix.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, TLO. It was a 2-0 there. Both games started out pretty similarly, but that second game in particular had some key differences that made it look a little bit dicey. So talk about what happened there.
So in the first game he played Phoenix and the Oracles, right? In the second game he did 2, but because the Oracles came so late, I canceled my spores, thinking he's going only Phoenix, then maybe fast Zealots, fast many Adepts, but instead there was Oracles. But I think he didn't realize I didn't have spores, so he did a stasis instead of doing harass, but he actually got like, what, 20 drones or something? So yeah, that was a little bit difficult, but still a good build for me.
Well, let's talk about your performance overall today. You did have to fight through group stage 1 and then through group stage 2. Your group in group stage 2 was not easy at all. It had Harstem and Chem, including Probe, who you just played. So overall, how do you rate your performance today?
I think I did pretty well considering it was one of the harder groups. I'm very happy about my 2-0 against Shem because he's been performing really well this year and his CVC is very, very scary. So beating him 2-0 was kind of unexpected. Harstem, he's extremely good in CVP right now. I think it's his best matchup. First game I should have won, but I kind of threw away. But, you know, it doesn't matter in the end, I'm through.
Well, now you're in the round of 32, which, Dario, I have to be honest with you, especially when we look back at 2017, the round of 32 was a huge obstacle for you, namely in the form of Neeb. I believe, it was Austin, Jönköping, and Valencia that Neeb knocked you out in the round of 32 every single time. So, what do you think? Do you think you'll be facing him again this time?
Probably Cyril instead. Yeah.
A different flavor of a strong player.
You know, Cyril is kind of the new Neeb, so I figure that's what's going to happen.
Fair enough. We'll find out in just a little bit, but first of all, congratulations again. We'll see how it goes in the round of 32, whether you face Cyril or not. Let's head back to Nathanias.
TLO taking a dominating 2-0. The situation's got a little dicey. We had some fun Bane Rain, though, the stasis traps, and a hell of a lot of Immortals not being enough to stop Dr. Dario from moving on to the round of 32 once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the World Championship Series. I'm Nathanias. Fear Dragon, Pig, talk to me. Break down the series a little bit. It was rough.
It was a little bit difficult for Probe, especially that game 1 ended up being really, really difficult. But I know, Probe, you were talking about how game 2, there were like these moments where Probe was maybe in an okay spot, but then TLO just kept getting really, really nice damage in.
He just looked really, really confident and strong there. I mean, there was that point where that push looked so scary and the stasis trap kind of kept Probe in the game, but, you know, TLO just looked very confident throughout. I think he was super decisive, and we saw him just kind of, I guess, defending the pressure well enough and instantly exploding into counter-aggression. That's such a decisive way to take control of that matchup. I mean, Protoss players like to kind of be the one pressuring and poking and keeping the Zerg in check, and usually they like to be a little bit greedy behind that, get up to the later stages. TLO was having none of it. He was saying, look, I don't compete that well with Protoss when Storm and like 12 Immortals are on the field. Let's get in there when there's 3 or 4 Immortals and finish the game off quick.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for the analysis. We are going to go to a short break as we get into our next match here at the World Championship Series. We'll be back in a few.